Howdy everybody, we're back with some more RPG horror stories and trying out a new model that I'm hoping to make mainstream here on the channel. Let's jump into our first story though. Our first story today is going to be from user Safe Appointment 260 and is titled, I Need Help. My DM is not letting me play a class. So first let me tell you that me and the DM are good friends. We're both fairly new to D&D. I played a one-shot before and he's played Baldur's Gate 3. I wanted to try out an undead warlock whose backstory I put a lot of time and effort into making. But to make a long story short, a guy thinks he is possessed because his soon-to-be patron whispers to him in his head, tries to go on a quest for a cure, gets killed in the process, and the quote curse grants him a second chance to live under a condition. He is adventuring to see if he can be free of the quote curse and live at the same time because the patron is slowly corrupting him. The DM said to me that my backstory is weird as it doesn't fit into the setting, which is going to be Curse of Strahd, and that the undead warlock is way too OP. Even though from what I understand, most of the enemies are immune to being frightened because they are undead. The DM asked me to change subclasses and the story to something darker. If I remember correctly, this subclass is from Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, which is meant to be a setting book that is similar to Curse of Strahd, like Barovia-esque. Adds a lot of different stuff. I think it adds undead as almost like a race of some sort. I know it adds like Dampier, which is like half vampires and stuff like that. And then this Warlock subclass is in there as well. Now, I can understand maybe the DM doesn't want any other undead or other undead in a story where the BBEG is a vampire, but how does one make like a voice in my head that makes me go on like a suicidal adventure and die like not dark enough? That one's a little weird to me. Like, I feel like that's a pretty dark, unless they want it like edgier. I don't know. So I said if it was okay to make a great old one Warlock, but he said that after consideration, Warlock is off limits for being too busted. When I asked why, he said that Eldritch Blast is too big of a cheat code, as almost no creature is resistant to force damage. Is that an actual reason why Warlock is seen as such a strong class in Curse of Strahd, or is it just mainly my DM not liking one class? Okay, so a DM can ban a class or subclass for really whatever reason. They're the ones kind of running the game. That being said though, I don't think Eldritch Blast is overpowered. To be honest, it's a crutch that holds up the Warlock class. Like, that cantrip is the literal support beam that holds up the house that is the Warlock class. Does this DM not know that you can like change the stat block of a creature? I'm kind of curious because like, okay, if you think the reason Eldritch Blast is OP is because nothing has or very few creatures have resistance to force damage, then just add that into the stat block. I get wanting to challenge your players, but it's really nice for your players to have something that works, like force damage being a consistent thing that they can rely on. Now, my other question is, if the Warlock is OP, is this DM going to be okay with Paladins and Clerics in this campaign? Because I feel like if there's any class that's strong in Curse of Strahd, it would probably be those, especially the Paladin. Like Aura to increase saves, access to some decent utility and healing spells, and who can forget Smite? Good old Smite. Now, OP's got two options ultimately here. I don't really agree with the DM's ruling, but this is not my table. And I'm not running Curse of Strahd. So the DM may have their own idea of what this needs to look like. And that the Warlock subclass just may not, or the Warlock class just may not be in there. Two options though. Make a different character that fits the DM's idea for the campaign. Maybe if you want something, make a Paladin or a Cleric. Or whatever you're feeling. Or find a new table to play this undead warlock at, or you can do both, to be honest. You can play at multiple tables. You are not legally required to only play at one table at a time when you're doing TTRPGs. If you could just find another table and play that undead warlock there, and then just pick something that will fit in with whatever the hell this DM wants, a non-warlock, but also dark backstory, which is weird. I find warlocks tend to have some of the darker backstories. Like usually it's ended up in the generic is ended up in a contract with a devil. And now you're forced to do horrible things for that devil to keep your contract going and to keep getting your power. Like that's almost like a staple for the warlock. So I don't know how warlocks are banned for those reasons, but maybe the DM doesn't like short rests or something because the Warlock gets their whopping, bear with me, 2 freaking spell slots, Warlock slots, whatever the hell you want to call them, pack slots on a short rest or whatever for 75% of the freaking Warlock's playtime. I think they can start getting some more later on. I haven't played a Warlock in a hot minute. I don't agree with the DM, but it's the DM's game. And OP, you may not agree with the DM, and that's okay. Just find a different character that fits the table, this weird amalgamation of a character that the DM wants, if you want, or find a new table, or, you know, play at their table and save that Warlock for another campaign and find another table with a DM that won't think Warlocks are broken for some fucking reason. Our last story for today is going to be from Designer28749 and is titled New Player Tried to Kill My Character for Being Queer. I've been playing Vampire the Masquerade for about 3 years now, with a group consisting of my DM, a really close friend, Jenna, his wife, and Vincent, my best friend. Over time, a few players have joined and left. One couldn't make time for it anymore due to work. Two were people who had never really played a TTRPG before and wanted to try it out, but Vampire just really wasn't their thing. And the last one didn't quite fit the group dynamic, though he was very nice. A month ago, the DM asked if we'd be okay with bringing in 2 new players. We all agreed, though it did seem a bit silly after 4 people had already come and gone. So we decided our group would travel to another city for a mission and meet them there. The players were Toby, a friend of the DM's, and Susan, who was Toby's new girlfriend. Everything seemed fine during the first session. We goofed around a lot and didn't make much progress, but that was okay. Things got a bit weird during the second session. We met a female Toreador who flirted a little with Jenna's character, and Susan suddenly became much meaner towards the Toreador. I might be mispronouncing that. I don't play VTM. She had been really nice to her before that. I didn't think much of it at first, though her jokes about how Jenna's character had to, quote, endure it started to get a bit excessive. Basically, that was all she talked about for the rest of the session. I get a feeling that Susan might be a homophobe. I think Susan's a homophobe. Which is wild. They're playing Vampire the Masquerade, a game that one of the designers, Mark Reinhagen, stated was influenced at least in part by Anne Rice's series The Vampire Chronicles at some point during its development. And you might know The Vampire Chronicles better for the first story in the series, which is Interview with the Vampire. That story that revolves around the vampires Lestat and Louise, who definitely are just roommates for that entire story. There's definitely no homoerotic subtext at all. There's definitely nothing homoerotic about them. They were just roommates, just really, really good friends for a while and roommates. That's all there was. Definitely, totally, for sure. Yeah. This situation ended up escalating in the next session. My character is bi. It wasn't a huge deal in the story. He simply didn't care about the gender of his partners. So we started the session and everything was back to normal, save for the occasional joke from Susan about the encounter with the Toreador. We were playing as usual and my character was being a bit flirtatious with my best friend's character. We've done this plenty of times and it was never an issue for him. He even flirts back. Okay, so what we have here is a table that allows some amount of romance between PCs and each other and or NPCs. It seems like everybody's cool with this minus Susan. Now, I would hope discussion had happened beforehand that this sort of thing was okay, and perhaps they just didn't clue Susan in on it. I would be curious though if Susan just didn't give a shit when it was men flirting with women, or like vice versa, if that's happened yet. I'd be kind of curious. I feel like that's probably happened at some point here and Susan didn't give a rat's ass, but then suddenly when it was 2 women or 2 dudes, sure, the hair on her neck started to stand up and she got all tingly and feeling weird and she didn't like it. I started getting weird looks from Susan. I thought that was the end of it, but God was I wrong. She stopped interacting with my character aside from a few snide remarks directed at him. Usually after a session we sit around and chat for a few minutes. We did this time too, but when I spoke to her, I only got 1-word answers, if I was lucky enough to even get a reply at all. We started the last session pretty normally. We found the guy we were looking for and started fighting him. By the time it was over, the sun was almost up, so we rushed back to our hideout. Everyone got inside except for me and Susan. She ran to the door and slammed it shut right in front of me. We were all a bit baffled. We asked out of character what was going on, and she just said, and I quote, "What? He's just one of those disgusting f***s." That was the last straw for me. I'm not a member of the LGBTQ community, but our DM is bi, and he's dealt with a lot of bigotry in the past. Oh, yikes. Okay, so we got a couple issues here. 1, we got someone being a homophobe, which is not cool. People should strive to be welcoming at the table and treat others how they want to be treated, no matter who they are. 2, we have a player here that is actively trying to PvP, which may or may not be okay at this table. If it isn't, we have someone breaking set ground rules. If it is okay, I would personally argue it's a poor use of PvP. This character wants to kill a fellow teammate because they're bi? Like, why would you not kill them for power or something like that? The Vampire the Masquerade is a very dark, grim setting in whatever the hell city you're like playing it in, where the like various vampire clans are kind of all vying for control and power. So understandably, there might be some friction in places and people may not get along perfectly. But if you're gonna kill somebody and cause something that might have to be cleaned up, which is that's a big part of Vampire the Masquerade, is like the fact that you're trying to hide vampire society from the general public. So somebody getting stuck outside of a building, who God knows where, potentially getting lit on fire by the sun and turning into a pile of bones and ash, might be a cause for concern and might end up dropping the veil of the masquerade, the need to hide that vampires exist in, modern society. On top of that, I'd argue that the character that did that, and it wasn't for a good reason, isn't really thinking through like how others are going to view that. Like if I was part of that group, I'd be like, well, I don't trust whatever the hell Susan's vampire's name is. They just killed this person for no freaking reason. I can't trust them even more now. Like, I really don't trust them. And again, that's assuming PvP has been discussed and allowed at this table, because if it hasn't been, huge breach of trust, huge breach of table rules. After a long argument, which culminated in her screaming at me that she didn't want my quote gay propaganda, claiming I made my best friend uncomfortable when my character flirted with his, and spouting other nonsense, she threw our stuff around and stormed out. You know you've made a really good argument when you have to throw things around and storm out to make your point. Well played. GG. So there we sat, her boyfriend included, in stunned silence. He apologized repeatedly, but we told him it wasn't his fault, which I'd argue it isn't. Cut to today, he's now a regular part of our group and has broken up with Susan. I think that was the worst experience I've ever had in a TTRPG. I never imagined that I, a straight guy, would become a target of homophobia. I feel like I got a small glimpse of what members of the LGBTQ community have to endure every single day, and I certainly don't envy them. Update, we just found out that she rants on Facebook, why is it always Facebook, about how the queers stole her boyfriend, that I made him gay, and that's the reason he left her to be with me, a straight guy. I was speechless about the fact that all of a sudden, not just my character is gay, but I am too, and how many people were on her side, but they don't know the real story, but still all the homophobic stuff that they ended up writing. Man, life was easier when I was straight. I thought I was, but apparently she knows me more. P.S. I don't care that she tells people that I'm gay. I couldn't care less if some bigots on the internet think that, and it's not bad being it, and it's nothing bad to be gay. I'm just not. That is weird that it's Facebook. It's always fucking Facebook. I don't know if it's like a boomer mindset thing. I've had some bad experiences playing TTRPGs, but thankfully I've never had to deal with homophobia at the table. Outside of that's a very different story. Thankfully, though, in this instance, it seems like the trash took itself out. Very wild that the trash is blaming others for their failed relationship. I guess they don't see the issues when they look in the mirror. Hopefully Susan finds some peace someday. Likely not, though. They're probably still screaming in an echo chamber somewhere. And again, I really do hope they find peace. I find people that are super homophobic have a tendency to have something deep down within them that they're not willing to accept or talk about or think about, because that scares them a little bit, that they might be a dreaded gay or something like that. So I really do hope they come to terms with themselves someday, or figure out what that is, if it's even just like a passing curiosity, or if it actually is their true selves that they're just not, willing to come to terms with. Because if that's not, that's a horrible way to live your life for the rest of your life. That being said, though, I highly recommend during session 0, you lay out ground rules for in-character party romance or romance between players and NPCs, because not everyone wants romance at the table, or if they do, they kind of want it to go a certain way, like if fading to black for anything sexual instead of erotic roleplay occurring. And then also make sure you lay out ground rules for stuff like PvP, be it social or physical, especially in a game like Vampire the Masquerade, where your characters are pulling from different clans that are working together on missions, so they may not, not everybody's going to be buddy-buddy. ultimately, and some people might be trying to jockey for better, you know, position within the structure of vampire society. And when you bring new people on, make sure they're aware of all the quirks and rules that your table has. That way, hopefully, people make their likes or dislikes known and can remove themselves early if needed, instead of having to have some huge outburst about, you know, the gays trademark or whatever. Alrighty guys, that being said, thank you for hanging out today. Thank you for watching the video. I greatly appreciate it. I would love to hear your thoughts in those comments down below and out of the stories we talked about. Do not forget to like and subscribe if you have not yet. Links to my socials and Twitch are also in the description as well. I will see you guys all in the next video though. I hope you guys like the new model. This is going to be slowly getting improved as time goes on. And I think I like this one a little bit more than the wolf. Give me your thoughts on that too. I'd be kind of curious. But I will see you guys all in the next one though. Bye everybody.